Imagine this. You're only 8 years old, and your world smells like vinegar, smoke, and fish guts. Your father runs a tiny food stall in the cramped back alleys of Edo in 1702. Every morning, you wake before sunrise, scrubbing fish scales from wooden boards until your small hands sting from the icy water. The sleeves of your kimono are stained with grease, and no matter how many times you rinse, the scent of mackerel clings to your skin. Your father scolds you for spilling vinegar on a customer again. His voice is sharp, but his eyes look tired. Poverty hangs in the air thicker than smoke, and you know, even at 8, that your family's future is as fragile as the clay bowls stacked in the corner. No one really notices you. Not the customers haggling for cheap skewers. Not the neighbors rushing through the alley. You're just another child swallowed by Edo's endless crowds. That is until today. 2 women step into the alley, and they do not belong here. Their presence silences everything. Their robes shimmer with silk patterns so vivid they seem alive, like koi swimming beneath water. Their hair rises in lacquered towers, pinned with gold ornaments that catch the dim light like blades. Faces powdered white, lips painted crimson, they look less like people and more like porcelain dolls. One of them kneels before you. Her perfume cuts through the stench of fish. She tilts your chin up with a finger and examines you the way others might inspect fruit at the market. She checks your teeth, your nails, even the shape of your ears. You flinch, but she smiles. It's not a warm smile. It's the smile of someone who sees value, not innocence. The second woman places a pouch into your father's hand. It lands with a heavy thud. The sound of coins. You don't understand until your father avoids your eyes. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. That pouch says more than words ever could. By sundown, you're no longer in your family's stall. You've been taken beyond the red gates of Yoshiwara, the sealed pleasure district of Edo. The gates close behind you with a finality that feels like chains. Yoshiwara is its own world, walled off from the city. Once you enter, you don't leave. Streets glow with lantern light, perfumed air drifts like smoke, and laughter echoes from behind sliding doors. You've never seen so many people pretending to be happy at once. But this is no home. You are told your name is no longer yours. From now on, you are Kamuro, a child attendant in the house of a high-ranking courtesan. You aren't here to be loved. You aren't here to be raised. You are here to be polished. Your duties are endless. You serve tea. You carry trays heavier than your arms can manage. You fold silks until your fingers ache. At night, you curl at the foot of your senior's futon like a pet cat she didn't ask for. You rise when she rises, dress when she dresses, and anticipate what she needs before she even speaks. You are invisible until you make a mistake. Then you're a nuisance. Your senior is not just any courtesan. She is a Tayū, the highest-ranking woman in Yoshiwara. Tayū are more than entertainers. They are cultural icons. They can recite elegant poetry, play multiple instruments, and wear robes so elaborate they require assistance just to pass through doorways. When your Tayū enters a room, men bow, women stare, and you, her Kamuro, watch every detail with a mix of awe and terror. How she lowers her eyes, how she flicks her fan, how she smiles without revealing anything. You memorize it all, because one day this performance may be yours. But for now, you are only a child who was bought and sold, Now trapped behind red gates where laughter is currency, beauty is weaponized, and freedom is an illusion. And this is just the beginning. Because life as a Kamuro is only the first step on a path designed to shape you into the most expensive illusion Edo has ever built. But the deeper you go, the more you'll realize beauty in Yoshiwara is not a gift. It's a burden. Your new life begins with silence. As a Kamuro, you're the lowest step on Yoshiwara's glittering ladder. No one cares what you think, only how well you obey. Every day is a routine of service, a rhythm of duties meant to erase the child you were and mold you into something else, something polished, refined, useful. At dawn, you rush to prepare tea, carrying trays that shake in your trembling hands. The teacups are porcelain, thinner than eggshells, and the slightest slip earns you sharp words or words, a slap across the cheek to remind you that mistakes are expensive. You fold and refold silken robes until you can do it blind. The fabric whispers beneath your fingers, heavier and richer than anything you ever touched in your old life. Each kimono costs more than your father would earn in years, and you're constantly terrified of tearing one. At night, when the district buzzes with laughter and shamisen music, you kneel by Yorte's side. You watch her with wide eyes as she glides across the room like a phantom, every movement measured, every word deliberate. She is terrifying in her perfection. She can silence a drunken samurai with a single raised brow, then coax him back into laughter with a delicate sip of sake. You study her the way a soldier studies a sword, because she is both weapon and shield. Your Tayū does not nurture you, she commands you. She orders tea, adjusts her robe, critiques your posture. To her, you are less an apprentice and more an accessory, a shadow meant to reflect her brilliance. Still, you learn. You memorize how she tilts her head when she listens, how she hides her smile behind her sleeve, how she seems to glide instead of walk. At first, these details confuse you. Then you realize every gesture is deliberate, every smile rehearsed, every glance calculated to maintain the illusion of unattainable beauty. The house mothers remind you daily, you are not a child. You are an investment, and so you begin your training. You kneel for hours, practicing how to pour sake without spilling a drop. You learn to sit with your back straight and your knees folded beneath you until your legs scream. You are taught to smile softly, never laugh openly. A Kamuro must be graceful even when invisible. You're forbidden to cry, forbidden to complain. If you weep, you do it in silence, biting the inside of your cheek so no one hears. The nights are the hardest. You curl at the foot of your senior's futon, trying not to move, trying not to breathe too loudly. The mat beneath you is thin, the air cold, but you don't dare shift. If you wake your Tayū, you will pay for it. But sometimes, when exhaustion drags you under, you dream. You dream of running barefoot through your old neighborhood, the taste of grilled fish in the air, your father's tired face softening with laughter. Then the dream fades, replaced by the reality of perfume, silk, and a voice telling you to fetch more tea. This is life as a Kamuro erasure through obedience. You're being stripped of your past, piece by piece, until only the performance remains. And yet, as you watch the parades, the banquets, the endless line of men desperate for a glimpse of your Tayū, a dangerous thought begins to creep into your mind. Someday, this could be you, the silk, the power, the admiration, the illusion, but for now, you are still a shadow. And the path ahead is long, painful, and merciless. Because next comes the real transformation, your years as a Shinzo, the apprentice Oiran. And what waits for you there will test not just your body, but your mind and soul. At 13, your world shifts again. You're no longer a Kamuro, no longer just a shadow at your Tay's side. Now, you are a Shinzo, an apprentice Oiran, and that means your training begins in earnest. The transition feels like a promotion, but in truth, it is the start of your real captivity. The house mothers remind you, a Shinzo is not born. She is carved. Your lessons fill every waking hour. Dawn to dusk, you are drilled in the arts of elegance. You learn the tea ceremony, where every gesture is symbolic, how to fold the napkin, how to whisk the tea without making a single bubble. One wrong movement, and the mistress of the house taps you on the knuckles with her fan. You study calligraphy, brush in hand, writing the same characters again and again until your wrists ache. Each stroke must be graceful, balanced, alive. A sloppy word is a sloppy woman. You practice the shamisen until your fingers blister and bleed. The strings cut into your skin, but you play through the pain because a Shinzo cannot flinch. Music is not entertainment here, it is currency, proof that you are worth the price men will someday pay. You are drilled in classical literature, the tale of Genji, ancient Chinese poetry, Confucian proverbs. These are not for your amusement. They are weapons. Words to impress scholars, poems to flatter samurai, verses to prove that you are more than just a painted doll. Your body is trained too. You learn how to walk so softly that wooden floors do not creak, how to kneel for hours without shifting, how to pour sake with such precision it looks like wind passing over water. You are taught to smile without showing teeth, to laugh without letting it sound too loud, to speak in the high, soft register expected of women in Yoshiwara, refined, delicate, always rehearsed. Every move, every word, every glance becomes performance. But training is not just about beauty. It is about endurance. The kimonos are suffocatingly heavy, the obi belts wound so tight you struggle to breathe. The hair ornaments jab your scalp until your skin bleeds. The shoes, tall wooden geta that force you to walk in slow, deliberate steps, are torture devices disguised as fashion. At night, when your body aches and your head throbs, you lie awake wondering, is this what it means to be admired? To suffer in silence while pretending you were born graceful? The answer comes quickly, yes. And yet, you don't resist. You can't, because the more you train, the closer you come to the shimmering world your Tayū inhabits. The banquets, the parades, the gifts. Someday, that spotlight will be yours. But first, you must survive the most grueling ritual of all, your debut. When you turn 16, the house matron wakes you before dawn. The day has come. The Oiran Doge, the ceremonial debut walk. Assistants dress you in a furosode kimono so heavy it feels like a cage. The sleeves trail like waterfalls, the silk embroidered with phoenixes and chrysanthemums. The obi tied in the front, a symbol that you are now available for purchase presses into your stomach until you can hardly breathe. Your hair is lacquered into a towering construction, adorned with golden pins and tortoiseshell combs. Each ornament is heavy enough to tilt your neck. The weight gives you a splitting headache, but no one cares. Your feet are strapped into komageta, wooden sandals 6 inches high. Each step feels like punishment. You've trained for this moment for months, but still, walking feels impossible. And yet, when you emerge into the lantern-lit streets, the crowd gasps. All of Yoshiwara has gathered to see you. Men stare as if you've descended from heaven itself. Women whisper, torn between envy and admiration. Children crane their necks for a glimpse. You move slowly, deliberately. Each step is a performance. You are not walking, you are floating, gliding, commanding the street. Your attendants flank you, their smaller geta clacking against the stones. Every eye is on you. In that moment, you understand something profound. You are no longer a girl. You are a product, and the performance is only beginning. Because after the walk comes the ceremony that will define the rest of your life. The miswage, the auction of your virginity. The word miswage is spoken in whispers, but every girl in Yoshiwara knows what it means. It is the transition from apprentice to full Oiran. It is the moment your body becomes currency. The bidding is fierce. Wealthy men compete for the privilege, offering sums that could feed an entire village for a year. You do not get a choice. The winner is an older man, wealthier than your father could ever imagine. His hands shake as he signs the contract, not from nerves, but from anticipation. That night, you are prepared like an object, bathed, painted, dressed in layers of silk. You lie down as instructed. You do not move. You do not speak. You are told to keep your eyes open, but your mouth closed. The man does not see you. He sees only the illusion he has purchased. You feel nothing. Not because you are numb, but because you've already learned how to suppress your feelings. The night your father sold you was worse than this. That was the night you lost your freedom. Tonight is simply business. When it's over, you bathe again, repaint your face, and return to the parlor as if nothing happened. Because now you are no longer a Shenzo. You are a Tayū, a full Oiran. And this is when the real performance begins. Your fame spreads quickly. Within weeks, your name echoes through Yoshiwara's gates. Every evening, you join the grand procession, clacking down the lantern-lit streets in your towering geta. Crowds line up hours in advance for a glimpse. Some whisper in awe, others in envy. Men compete for your attention, women study your style, and children dream of the spectacle you embody. Inside the banquet halls, the air is thick with incense and sake. Wealthy patrons kneel before you, reciting poems about your eyes, your smile, your voice. One man gifts you a bonsai tree shaped in your likeness. Another offers land. A third, disturbingly, sends you his severed pinky finger. You keep the tree. You burn the letter. Every gesture you make is deliberate. You sip sake only when required. You laugh only when it is useful. You touch a man's hand only when it serves your purpose. And yet, you wield power here. Unlike lower-ranking courtesans, you can say no. If a man disgusts you or bores you, you may politely decline. Most would never risk the shame of rejection from a Tayū. Your calendar is booked weeks in advance. Patrons compete not just for your company, but for the prestige of being seen with you. You are no longer a girl from a fish stall. You are a living symbol of refinement, elegance, and desire. But the illusion has its cracks. Behind the laughter, behind the painted smile, lies silence. Every gift you receive, every banquet you attend, every fan that waves your name reminds you of the cage you live in. You are admired, worshipped, desired. but never free. Years pass, and the applause begins to dim. The younger Shinzos are fresher, prettier, hungrier. They bow deeper, laugh louder, move faster. Patrons begin to whisper their names instead of yours. You notice when your fan goes untouched at a banquet, when your walk fails to draw the same gasps it once did. Worse still, you realize that freedom is farther away than ever. Every kimono you wore, every hair ornament, every lesson, every meal, they were never gifts. They were debts. And your debt has grown into a mountain. You have been performing for years, and yet you haven't even paid off the shoes on your feet. Some Tagu Mary out of the district. A wealthy patron, infatuated beyond reason, buys out her contract and whisks her into a new life. But that is rare. Most women fade into the background, their names forgotten, their beauty replaced by younger illusions. The house mothers remind you, you are valuable only as long as men believe you are rare. You laugh a little longer. You smile a little softer. You pour tea for men who couldn't find Yoshiwara without a map. You perfect your act, clinging to relevance. But inside, you begin to think the unthinkable. What if you could be free? Freedom, however, comes at a price. Your contract is measured in gold, and no amount of whispered dreams can buy it back. Still, the thought festers. You imagine walking beyond the red gates. You imagine hearing your name, your real name again. You imagine living without makeup, without silk, without masks. But Yoshiwara is a maze designed to keep you. Every step, every smile, every bow has chained you tighter. You are no longer just a woman. You are a brand, a product, an illusion. The younger girls look at you with admiration. Just as you once looked at your Tayū, they mimic your walk, your smile, your every gesture, and you see the cycle repeating. Innocence sold, childhood erased, beauty polished into currency. You realize the Oiran are not born, they are manufactured. And when the illusion fades, the world forgets. Then history itself shifts. The year is 1868. The Meiji Restoration slams into Japan like a cannonball. The samurai vanish. Edo becomes Tokyo. The country opens its gates to the west. With it comes change. The courtesans of Yoshiwara, once the pinnacle of elegance, are suddenly outdated. The world wants something simpler, more modern. The geisha rise in popularity, offering lighter entertainment, less intimidation, more accessibility. Tourists arrive, curious about Japan's floating world. They see paintings of Oiran and confuse them for geisha. You hear them whisper, "Look, a geisha." As they point at an image of you, you say nothing. You were trained to be silent. The applause fades. The parades shrink. The banquets grow quieter. Your name is dropped from guest lists, replaced by younger, fresher entertainers. You are a relic in a world that no longer remembers what a Tayū was. Your sandals are boxed. Your ornaments tucked away. Your name fades from the registry. You are not remembered by crowds, nor by clients. But in small ways you remain, in the flicker of a lantern, in the sound of a shamisen string, in the way a painted smile can hold steady through pain. You were never just beautiful, never just trained. You were curated, calculated, perfected, the most expensive illusion Japan ever built. And yet the world forgets. Today, when people speak of traditional Japanese courtesans, they confuse Oiran with geisha. They don't know the weight of 6-inch sandals. They don't know the silence of a child sold behind red gates. They don't know the price of beauty polished into currency. But you know, because you lived it. Still think geisha had it rough. Wait until you see what their lives were like. Because if you thought 6-inch wooden sandals were painful, just wait until you meet the infamous neck pillow. Even as you rise to the height of fame, you begin to realize something chilling. Choice is only an illusion. You're admired, desired, and even envied, but you're never truly free. Every kimono draped across your shoulders, every banquet hosted in your honor, every lesson that refined your gestures, it all comes at a cost. The debt hangs over you like a second shadow. It doesn't matter how many patrons worship your presence or how many poems are written in your name, the ledger in the housebook keeps growing. That's when you notice something unsettling in the eyes of newcomers, the fresh apprentices, wide-eyed, with their backs straight and their smiles trembling. You see yourself in them. You remember the fish guts, the vinegar spilled on a customer's sleeve, and the way your father refused to meet your gaze when he traded you for a pouch of coins. These girls will inherit the same chains you carry now. And you wonder, will they end up calculating their every breath as you do? Or will they dare to dream of escape? Freedom isn't impossible, but it comes with risks. Some courtesans do buy their way out, usually with the help of wealthy patrons who want to turn fantasy into permanence. But whispers fill Yoshiwara about the ones who tried and failed. The ones who fell in love with samurai, merchants, even poets, only to vanish when plans collapsed. Late at night, while the lanterns outside dim, you hear rumors of women who slipped away into the city. Some dressed as men, some hidden in palanquins, some simply vanishing into alleys under cover of rain. No one ever confirms their fate. Did they live free lives somewhere far from Edo? Or did the brothel's keepers drag them back in silence, teaching the others what happens when you try to break the rules? You wonder which ending would be worse, to disappear into obscurity or to remain forever as someone else's story. To survive, you polish the mask you've been wearing since childhood. You learn exactly when to laugh, exactly when to appear coy, and exactly when to feign surprise. You could perform the act in your sleep, and perhaps you often do. Men walk into your chamber thinking they see you, but they only see what you've chosen to project. A perfect illusion. A performance honed sharper than any sword. But every now and then, the mask slips. A joke makes you genuinely laugh, and the sound surprises you. Or a song on the shamisen brings back memories of home the stall, your father's rough hands, the sting of vinegar. In those fleeting moments, you're no longer the Oiran. You're just a woman who was once a child, sold and shaped into something beautiful but untouchable. The men never notice. Or maybe they pretend not to. Time, however, does notice. No mask, no matter how perfect, can stop it. As the years pass, you feel the weight of history pressing down. Japan itself begins to shift. The outside world forces its way in. Ships arrive. Cannons thunder. Foreign merchants walk through the ports. The shogunate crumbles. And with it, the world you were built to serve begins to collapse. The demand for Oiran wanes. New forms of entertainment take root, simpler, lighter, less bound by tradition. The geisha rise in popularity. They're modern, approachable, adaptable. Men no longer want to wait hours to glimpse an Oiran's procession or pay fortunes for an audience. The allure of the past fades. swallowed by the hunger for the future. You still walk the streets in towering shoes and layered silks, but fewer heads turn. Fewer patrons call your name. The applause grows quieter. Until one day, the lanterns no longer flicker for you at all. And so the illusion fades. The most expensive dream Japan ever built becomes a ghost of itself. Your sandals are stored away. Your kimonos tucked into chests that will never open again. The name once sung in poetry and echoed through crowded parades now disappears from the registry like it was never there. But that doesn't mean you were forgotten. Because somewhere in the painted screens, the faded woodblock prints, and the whispered stories of travelers, your shadow remains. You weren't just an entertainer. You were an artist, a strategist, a performance of elegance wrapped in layers of silk and pain. You were a lesson of beauty, control, and cost. And when people confuse you with geisha centuries later, when they blur your history into a softer, gentler tale, you remain silent. Because silence was your first lesson, and it was the one you carried until the end. You were not just a woman. You were an Oiran, the highest-priced illusion of Edo, the mask Japan wore before it tore itself open to the world.